In today's biased news, notorious former Italian PM kicks the bucket, North Korea joins hands with Russia, and the Ukrainian counteroffensive is off to a rocky start. Former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi, the media mogul and business billionaire, died this morning of an infection as a result of leukemia at the age of 86. Berlusconi had been Italy's longest-serving premier, taking up politics in 1994 after establishing control over large shares of Italian media and other business interests. With each of his 4 election wins mired in legal scandals, including tax fraud for which he served no jail time, he finally stepped away from office after a serious Italian debt crisis, as well as accusations of private sex parties with minors. His 35 criminal court cases span connections to the mafia, bribery of government officials, corruption of the political process, and many other crimes. It's currently a matter of speculation as to who will inherit Berlusconi's business holdings, or whether they'll be liquidated or cannibalized by rival companies. Condolences have come from interesting sections of the Italian political scene, including the Minister of Defense, as well as the current far-right Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. Berlusconi made his first fortune in real estate and construction following the economic boom of post-war Italy through building exclusive housing outside of Milan for upper-middle-class Italians. Afterwards, he expanded into advertising and television, building the largest private media presence in the country, then football, banking, insurance, and other ventures. He subsequently used this control to popularize his political message. Berlusconi was known for systematically using personal connections to maintain and legalize aspects of his business, a favor not granted to many of his neoliberal or conservative rivals. Likewise, he used his tenure in office to pass laws that directly benefited him and his businesses, including exemptions from prosecution and tax-cutting measures. Under the current system, politics is just another tool in the hands of the ruling class, by which they maintain their power and privilege above the law. Everyday Italians continue to suffer from crushing inflation and an employment crisis, as the built-in corruption within so-called respectable capitalist liberal democracies continues to show itself, whether that takes the form of Trump, Berlusconi, or all the rest who lack their theatrical flair and thus manage to stay out of the limelight. In Asia, the DPRK's Kim Jongun has vowed to, quote, hold hands with Russian President Vladimir Putin and bolster strategic cooperation on their shared goal of building a powerful country, as reported on Monday by state media KCNA. Kim made the pledge in a message to Putin marking Russia's National Day, defending his decision to launch what Russia has called their special military operation in Ukraine, and displaying, quote, full support and solidarity. While the proxy war in Ukraine is a fraught topic, what's undeniable is the shifting of geopolitical ties around the world. This conflict may very well be the spark that ignites an entirely new balance of power, or at the very least, massive changes to the status quo. Over in Scotland, a major government scandal continues. Former Scottish leader Nicola Sturgeon was arrested as part of an investigation into financial irregularities within the Scottish National Party. This arrest comes after her husband, Peter Murrell, the former chief executive of the SNP, was arrested in April as part of the same probe. The investigation focuses on the funding and finances of the SNP. Sturgeon has stated her innocence and expressed shock and distress at the situation. She had previously announced her resignation as First Minister in March, citing her perceived divisiveness as a reason for stepping down. Sturgeon has since been released from custody, pending further investigation. In nuclear news, the world's 9 nuclear-armed states are continuing to modernize their arsenals, with China's stockpile of nuclear warheads rising by 17% in 2022, according to the Sweden-based Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. It's estimated that China's nuclear arsenal had increased from 350 warheads in January 2022 to 410 in January of 2023, and that it was, quote, expected to keep growing. While every country has the right to develop nuclear weapons as deterrents, the world's governments are playing a very dangerous game. It only takes one mistake to start a cascade that could leave the Earth uninhabitable. Internal trouble in Russia. The Wagner Group has refused to sign contracts with Russia's defense ministry, despite an order for all independent forces to do so by the end of June. Although the ministry did not explicitly mention the Wagner Group in its statement, it was widely reported that the order was an attempt to assert control over the mercenaries following public outbursts by Prigozhin. The Wagner chief has been critical of top military officials in Russia, accusing them of treachery for their handling of the war in Ukraine. But it's not all sunshine and roses on the other side of the front either. Ukraine's summer blockbuster, the long-awaited counteroffensive, is not going well. They've lost over 15 of their US-supplied tanks, and at least 5 German Leopards, in a literal and symbolic defeat by the Russian forces. Ukraine has stated it's taken multiple villages from the Russians, though evidence at this point is sketchy. This is likely only the first stage of the counteroffensive. But for now, things are not looking good for Ukraine or for the wallets of their Western backers. And in positive news of the day, new research shows that 71% of Americans support same-sex marriage, a staggering increase since 1995, when it was only 35%. While there are reactionary forces in every generation, it looks like Gen Z as a whole have little patience for their parents' bigotry, and are actively pushing for a better, more inclusive world. That's all for today. We'll be back day after tomorrow with more news. If you'd like to see episodes with more in-depth analysis, consider supporting the show on Patreon so we can grow and expand.